Badgers go on the road and get embarrassed. Anything positive here? And we got to talk about some coaching decisions. Coming up next, Locked On Badgers.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel right now, $5 bet gets you $150 in bonus bets guaranteed over at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Badgers get embarrassed. There's no other way to say it. They get embarrassed. Rajiv, you don't even have your Badger gear on. And it sucks. Like, here's my big takeaway. It sucks. I love this team, man. And they didn't show up. They didn't show up. And some late scores make this look a little closer than it is. But if you watch this game for 60 minutes, embarrassing. Defensively, embarrassing. Special teams, embarrassing. Some of the coaching decisions, embarrassing. The fumble before half, embarrassing. I already said special teams, but doubly embarrassing. Rajiv, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, this is the most upset I've been all season. We've won 5 games. We beat 5 teams that we were better than. We had lost 5 games to teams that weren't better, that were better than us, except USC, certainly debatable. But for the most part, but this was one of those games where we could have beat this team. There's nothing about this team that's super amazing. I give credit to Nebraska, credit to Dana Holgorsen for calling a good game, for confusing us. We got outcoached, shocker again. But just so uninspired. I mean, we put way too much time, effort, and love into this team to watch that crap. It's upsetting. You're 6-6, you fire your offensive coordinator. Sorry, you're 5-5, you fire him. A lot of stuff going around the program. You got to get that team ready to go. The offense at times looked like they actually moved the ball. I mean, you look at the stat line, Braedyn, Locke, 20 of 30, 292, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Okay. Mm-hmm. Darian Dupree, 7.9 yards carry. Vinny Anthony, 137 yards. There's things you point at, and you're like, look, the offense moved the ball. But then, of course, can we play complementary football? No, because when the offense can do anything, special teams doesn't work or defense doesn't work. We're just getting gashed left and right. Our cornerback has one of the worst games he's played in his entire career. Just everything about this game, the tackling, it was uninspired. It wasn't even, they weren't even trying at some point. They folded, they mailed it in. I'm a big fan of this team. I love this team just like you do, like all these people listening to us, except Nebraska fans. And you know what? This blows. It absolutely kills me to have to watch this team and to see that kind of performance. And yeah, I took my shirt off because that's crap. I put back a shirt on the team that did me proud today. I am furious by what we just saw. And it's just a sad day to be a Badger fan, man.
Yeah, Epic One says, it baffles me how we can hold Oregon to 16, but give up 44 to Nebraska, 42 to Iowa. That's it, right? You can't, there's no consistency with this team. You go and you play this great game defensively against Oregon, and it felt like, where was that? Where was some of the play calls? Where was some of the defensive effort that you had against Oregon or against Penn State that you didn't have against Iowa and Nebraska? And then today the offense showed up decently, but it's never complimentary. Never all 3 phases going at the same time, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating because we just don't have. There's no excuse for it, right? This far into the season, there's no excuse for Rajiv. In the first half, we kicked the ball out of bounds. We missed 2 field goals. We fumbled right before half. We let Nebraska.
Where we should have been running the ball to begin with.
Yeah, but you still can't fumble it. But yes,
yeah. And then you know what the thing is like, and I'll say this, and I'm sure Justin's ready to go here. To me, one of the things that was the most disappointing, that team was more hungry for it. That team was 5-5. They wanted it. Okay. They've been kicked around in this rivalry time and time again. We've beat the crap out of them more times than they can count. And they wanted it more than we did. So they deserved that. They deserved the performance they got, and we didn't want it. And the thing that really pisses me off is that we were outcoached. I'm sorry, Luke Fickell. There is no excuse for some of the decisions you made. I know we're going to talk about it, Ryan. I am just floored by some of the decisions that were made. And there were times where I was like, the play calling. Okay, I kind of like it. And then there were times where we just laid an egg. We seemed to not be able to coach for a full 60 minutes. We can't seem to get over that hump. We can't seem to do everything that every other team does that we just can't do, and it's absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me roll here.
Family-friendly show. Just
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be blunt. This team lacks discipline. It lacks focus, and that comes from leadership. There's no reason whatsoever we should seem so incredibly locked in against Oregon and so pathetic against Nebraska. Like the defensive effort. I'm sorry, Jim Tressel, get out, because I watch a game like this tonight and I have people telling me, look how good they were against Oregon. Okay, well, a good defense doesn't give up 6 consecutive scoring drives to a bad offensive team. What else it does? A good defense actually forces negative plays, consistently gets sacks, consistently gets turnovers, consistently gets tackles for loss, which this crappy scheme never does. Even when they play well, they still don't force negative plays. And I'm tired and sick of it because it creates such a minimal room for error on the defensive side of the football when you can never force a play to go backwards. And this team just never does it. And I'm sorry, it's Ryan, I know you and I disagree on this.
We do.
You do not have to have NFL talent to be solid on defense. You need it to be really good on defense, but you don't need it to be able to have guys that get sacks, turnovers, and whatever. There are plenty of teams that have average players that are still capable of forcing some of those situations. I was hoping we'd have a little bit of time so I could dig into it and see just how poor his defense has been over the last 2 seasons, because it's a trend now. It's 2 consecutive years where his defense just sucks in those regards.
My bigger point is this, and again, I don't want to get too into that minutia of it. I don't think it matters who the defensive coordinator is if you don't upgrade the talent, is my bigger point. I've already said, like,
and I'll agree with that.
If Tressel stays or Tressel goes, I'm not dying on that hill. But I don't think you're going to fire both coordinators in the offseason. And I don't think it matters unless you get better talent. Like, these are both issues. Like, I'm not discounting what you're saying at all. I don't love this game either. I thought against Iowa it was bad.
This was a bad running team that we gave up almost 200 yards rushing against.
Agreed. But, like, people just also need to tackle. Like, how many missed tackles did you have today? Like, just tackle.
But that falls back on the defensive and coaching staff of not getting, like,
tackling.
Yes. Part of it is wanting to, but if your guys aren't getting the job done, then take them out of the damn game. Like, I'm sorry. I know we've been high on Tackett Curtis. Those two errors
young
are
man plays. Yeah.
I put Janzi in. Put Janzi in. At least maybe he won't give up 30 yards in penalties on one drive.
Yeah, we had a comment up here about those penalties, even though that was at the end of the game.
It was, but they were both killers.
Well, it's just about losing. It's about losing your head. And this is where I think, like, look, we can talk about the defensive scheme. And Justin, I mean, you and I have gone back and forth about this as well. I hear what you're saying. But at the end of the day, like, the part of coaching that annoys me is this kind of coaching. Like, the scheme is one thing, but it's also like, that's like some of the discipline things, like those things that Curtis, the way, like, I don't know what that is. I don't know why that's happening, but there were way too many mistakes like that. There was way too many missed tackles. And yes, tackling is on the player, but like the fact that the coaches clearly need to do something more to get this team up. Like, how can you act one way against Penn State and Oregon and then do what you did against Iowa and Nebraska? Like 40, of course they scored a season high 44 points. Are you kidding me? Like that's players, that's coaches, that's everyone. That's just bad football, and bad football gets blamed at the top. So this loss absolutely falls on Luke Fickell. And because you have to start at the top, there is zero reason that you can go to Iowa and you can go to Nebraska and you can play like this. That is Luke Fickell's fault. Absolutely all the way at the top. It is unacceptable. I'm not saying I'm ready to Luke Fickell out, but he absolutely gets blamed for this. And Tressel gets blamed for his players playing the way that they did too. There's no need for it. You're playing in the Big Ten. You're playing in an 18-team conference that is absolutely stacked from top to bottom now. If you want to compete at any point with the teams that are in this conference, you cannot play football like this. You cannot. And to be fair, we didn't have a lot of uninspired games in our past. That's on Fickell. He's got to get better.
And I completely agree with that. And that's kind of where I fall on it. Like, all these people that want to talk about the Oregon game, and my response to that will be, guess what? Even if we're good, we go out there and we beat a team like Oregon. If we mail it in, if we play like this the next week, does it really matter if you beat a really good team if you crap the bed against a bad one the next week? Like, it doesn't matter. You're not going anywhere as a program if that's how you play. Like, you've got to find a way to get some level of consistency out of your team. And I don't know who that falls on and why these are issues, but there's something wrong that we have such a high variance in terms of the level of play that we see from week to week.
Yeah, it's on Fickell. Like you said, to Rajiv's point, when you say, I don't know who that falls on, it's on Fickell. Like I've always said, this is the Navy in me, right? The captain of the ship, everything's on him.
Yeah.
You hire the coordinators, you hire the staff, you hire the recruiting department, you run the program. This is unacceptable. Like, there's no part of this that's okay. You can lose to Nebraska. I thought they would lose to Nebraska, by the way. You can't be down 33-10. You can't give up 6 straight scoring drives. Like, we got to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We got to hit on some of these coaching decisions. Like some of these coaching decisions we got to talk about because they were driving me nuts. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. We do need to take a quick second for our friends of the show over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get all of your daily fantasy action. Over 10 million members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has daily fantasy. It's made it accessible to all people, all players. Now you just pick more or less. And honestly, if you were taking Braedyn Locke in this one, you would have been okay. Like, we actually had a decent Braedyn Locke, Vinny Anthony performance today.
He shouldn't have had a pick today. That was completely on the receiver.
Braedyn played well. If you would have prize picked Braedyn, you probably would have done just fine today. You get to pick more or less on any 2 players. That's it. You don't have to go up against anything else. Nice and simple. Sign up to get $50 instantly when you pay $5. You only need to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app. I'm sad, y'all. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's the code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize pick. Run your game. All right, let's get back to this, guys. We got to talk about the coaching decisions, and specifically that first one. We got to talk about that first 2-point conversion one. This to me, if you guys remember towards the end of Paul Chryst's tenure, he had that game against Ohio State. He had a game against Minnesota where he couldn't figure out if he was going to go for it or not. Then he called timeout. Then he went for it. Then he had a game against Ohio State where there was a penalty on Ohio State. It would have given us better field position, and he just declined it, right? Because I think he felt like the game was over. Good decisions are good decisions regardless of when they happen. The Badgers scored a touchdown late in this game. 2-point conversion would have made it a 16-point game with about a quarter left. Okay, 2 scores. They kick an extra point. You're not going to get 3 more possessions and not hold them. I don't know. That's coaching malfeasance, man. There's no excuse for that.
No disagreement. And then the next drive, they go for 2.
Extra point on that one would have been a
point game. So Ryan's losing his mind.
That one didn't make sense to go for 2. The one previously did. It's stuff like that makes me worry.
I mean, I know all these coaches always say, like, oh, well, we look at the sheet. We look at the sheet. There's no way the sheet says to kick it when you're down 18 points. There is no sheet in the world that says to kick it when you're down 18 points in the fourth quarter. That's crazy. You go for 2, you're down 16, and then you do it again the next time. And it's just like, I don't know if he's going to get asked about that. I hope our boy Nick Osen asks him or something. Like, someone needs to ask him that because I want to hear the explanation. I would love to hear an explanation. And boy, someone said it in our Discord. You think the press was bad on Monday? Wait till you see the press today. This is not going to be a fun press conference. I'm sure it's happening right now. I'll watch it later, but unbelievable.
I want to follow that up. Somebody put a comment in there about the kicking the ball out of bounds.
Really quickly on this one, and just I'm going to get to you, Tyler, who we all love, said, Ryan, I get it. It didn't matter. If they had scored there and got the 2-point, it would have been 16 with about 12 minutes left, 13 minutes left. That's my point is twofold. I always want the coach to make the right decision, whether it matters in the bigger picture or not. Always make the right decision, right? But it did matter there. Like, that would have brought them to within 2 scores, and obviously we weren't winning, but it was still there.
And you're talking about a quarterback that, like, not he played a fine game today, but he can put it in harm's way too. Like that, there's nothing that says you can't have a fumble. Like we had a fumble where we got the ball at the 20-yard line, didn't score, of course, but like that can happen. So anything that you 2 scores in the fourth quarter is 10 times better than 3 scores in the fourth quarter. And it's not close. It's a dumb decision. There's absolutely nothing he can say to defend it. I'm curious what his explanation is. I hope he just comes out and says, yeah, we got that wrong, because that's what he should say.
Yeah. The bigger issue I have here is this is across the board. It just seems like everyone is not focused. Like Fickell and his staff does not seem like they had their attention on this game the way they should have. And that showed it in the decision-making that was happening throughout this game. Like, There are kids sitting down that barely know how to play Madden or NCAA football that are making better, shrewder decisions than what we're seeing from this staff right now. Like the running the ball, and somebody tried telling me, well, what if he breaks a run on it? I'm like, there's 20 seconds left. Unless he runs the ball all the way down to the other 20-yard line, it doesn't matter. You know how much time is going to run off the clock in that? Like by the time he runs and everything gets picked up, it's likely going to be, there was 11 seconds when Nebraska took it over. They ran one play. Like, stop with that nonsense. That should have been a kneel. Take it to halftime. Instead, you gave up 3 more points. That is just another kick in the teeth to your team and takes away some of that energy that you would have had, as they do the 2 field goals that we completely botched in this game. And it's like, it's just so many areas with stupid stuff happening.
That personally, I mean, look, hold on to the ball, Tawi. Like, I don't mind a running play there, because if it breaks, then maybe you can use your timeout. Maybe it's fine. It's only the only reason we're saying that is because he fumbled it. But if he doesn't fumble it, no one is saying a damn word about that play. It's not a big deal. He shouldn't have fumbled it. The call to run there is not a bad call. It's my opinion.
I mean, my pushback on that would be, of course it's not. It's also not a problem if a quarterback doesn't throw an interception, but if he does, it's going to be called out as like, what are you doing?
To me, that's on Tywee much more than the coaching staff. Like, he's an upperclassman running back. Hold on to the ball. Like, here's what I would say. Like, Tywee is very unlikely to be a guy in that situation that does break one. Like, even if he breaks out of it, he's not going to get that many yards. It'd be sure nice if we trusted like a guy like Cade Yakimelli in that spot who has more long speed. But to me, I don't think you trust a freshman there, maybe. But the bigger point is, to me, Tywee Walker is an upperclassman running back. You have to hold on to the ball. There's no excuse there. Yeah, I agree there. So we have so many comments, guys. We appreciate everybody as always for tuning in. This is just frustrating because, again, we all get so passionate about this program.
What are your thoughts, both of you? It seemed like the pressure was actually having an effect earlier in the game. Second half, we just completely backed off of it and let him just sit back there and be comfortable. Like, he was playing 7-on-7 the entire second half, and that led to the 6 consecutive scoring drives. Like, he just sat back there for 4 or 5 seconds throwing 5-yard crossers.
I mean, yes, we should have pressured him more, but I will say that even when he was pressured, their receivers they don't even have that many great receivers. They were cooking our cornerback, so I don't really want them to necessarily be, in a situation where he just tosses it up there, because we were losing all those 50-50 battles. That being said, like, I agree. I mean, we still needed to get him off the spot, because this season has shown that he's actually he's put the ball in harm's way after that's happened. But I will say again, Dana Holgorsen, you talk about that team fired their offensive coordinator 2 weeks ago. They brought in Dana Holgorsen, used to be coach of West Virginia, made massive changes, not only just in play calling, but in like the effort. I mean, he called everybody out for not blocking on run plays, like, and you can see what they've done, and that's good coaching. So credit to them, and credit to, I know their fans are probably listening. You guys won, you earned it. But it would be nice to have that on our side of the ball too.
Let me ask you guys this. I know, Justin, you and I have talked about this, and again, there's not going to be no part of me that defends Mike Tressel after this performance or after the Iowa one. But would they fire two coordinators in an offseason year 2?
My personal perspective on this is, if you have the wrong hire, you make the change. I don't care how it looks. You need to do what you think is in the best interest of the program to put you on the right foot going forward. This scheme is not going to work if we can't create pressure. It won't matter how good we are. If we play teams like Oregon and Ohio State and whoever going forward, if we can't force turnovers or get sacks or force negative plays, we're going to lose those games, because even if we even the playing field in terms of the overall ability level, they're still going to be able to do that to us, and we can't. So that's going to give them more opportunities and more room for error than what we're going to have.
I mean, this comment here, field goal miss is not on Fick. Yeah, it's not. And there are a lot of things that are not on Fick. But for me specifically with Tressel, it's like, Ryan, I agree with you that it's more the players. And I just think that, like, with better players, Justin, I think the tackles for loss do happen. I think that's part of the issue, is like, we would be able to force more negative plays with better talent. That being said, with the coaching side of it, the side that's actually getting these players to actually perform better, so to me, it's Fickell and the players. It's Tressel, it's fine. Like you said, Ryan, if he goes, he goes, but I'm more bothered, honestly, than with Fickell than I am with even Tressel. I'm more upset about Fickell right now, because I think there's so much of that permeates down. Like Tressel should be able to have his guys play better after a week against Oregon, but that falls on Fickell.
Yeah, Justin, I agree with your point too. And if you are sure you have the wrong hire, then it doesn't make sense to prolong that. I agree with that point. I just don't know if they would fire both of them in one offseason. And again, I think talent is an issue here. I think we both agree that both are issues. I do want to give a shout out really quickly. Vinny Anthony was incredible today. I know we've talked about nothing positive today because this is not a good game, but Vinny Anthony continues to just impress. Had a nice special teams return as well. Guys, Vinny Anthony is a really good receiver, and it's nice that something good happened.
Vinny Anthony and Darren Dupree both get a lot of credit for us today. Guys. I mean, Dupree had 7.9 yards to carry. He looks like he's going to be an absolute dude. I put in the Discord at the end of the game, I said, there are really good young pieces on this team. There really are. And yes, there's got to be more people around. There's got to be a lot of improvements, but there are pieces. You couple that with, recruiting that I started a comment earlier, like what this staff does well is recruit. Sadly, it's the other side that they still haven't proven yet, which is going to have to happen. But I did want to bring in this comment here. Realist says the delay of game before the field goal is on Fick. I disagree with this because first of all, it's really on the kicker and the holder for not seeing, because they were like not even paying attention to the clock. But oftentimes, because I don't like the hash marks in college, I think that's a stupid rule, by the way. 5 yards back is actually a slightly easier kick, honestly. So I get him not taking it. It is the first half. You could have taken it, but it tightens the angle when you're a little closer. So there's no reason he misses the second kick. Like that's not on Fick, in my opinion. That's all. It's on the kicker entirely.
My pushback on that would be, do you think that they actually use that logic when thinking about the situation? Because I don't. I think with the clock coming down, I bet you they just completely missed it. And
I don't think they completely missed it. Like you can't tell me a whole coaching staff is missing the play clock.
We had to delay a game literally a week ago against Oregon coming out of a kickoff.
Yeah, that was bad too.
I'm just saying.
The kick is still on
the staff lacks focus.
You have to hit kicks, but like the bigger picture of having that delay of game penalty right there shows that this team is on discipline and on focus right now.
And that's the bigger point. Right. Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
But Fickell still needs to hit a kick. Like hit the kick, bro. And that would have changed the complexion of the game later on too. We do have to take a quick break. I have a comment here that I wanted to put up because this next advertisement is for Ryan. Thank goodness for good beer. Let's take a quick break for our friends of the show over at ZBiotics. And then we're going to get back into any other comments you have and kind of big picture just on Fick, where everybody's at cutting into the last game of the year. Our good friends over at ZBiotics Pre Alcohol drink. And this might be a great one for Badger fans today. It's the first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Free alcohol produces an enzyme to break this product down. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel great tomorrow. If you haven't done it before, this is how you're going to use it. Step 1, drink ZBiotics, a pre-alcohol, make it your first drink of the night. Step 2, pace yourself. Be normal, hydrate, get some sleep. Step 3, wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more. Get 15% for your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee, so you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for checkout at 15% off. Today's episode also brought to you by incredible friends over at FanDuel. Rajiv, how'd you do today with your picks?
1-1 so far. Got Ohio State. I knew that was gonna be a blowout. It turned out to be a cover for Ohio State. And Rutgers +1. They really should have won that game. They let that ridiculous play happen at the end. I lost that one. I've got USC tonight.
So if you've been following along with Rajiv, he's actually really, really good at this. If you want to use FanDuel, follow along with Rajiv's picks. You'll actually make some money. Holiday season's coming up, a great time to do it. Head over to FanDuel.com. You can start with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. That's FanDuel.com. Do it responsibly. The official sportsbook of the NFL and the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, Rajiv, I saw you get the axe out heading into the Minnesota week.
This is all that matters right here. This is what matters now. And let me tell you something. This coaching staff needs to recognize that this is what matters. Like, I understand what's happened, but bowl eligibility and the axe are both on the line. A 22-year streak. That means something to me. You've heard me say this a lot. high floor program is something that I love. The high floor program. We've had that for so long. This means something, and Fickell better understand that. These players better understand it, because the fans certainly do. And this is a big week. Today was completely unacceptable. There better not be any kind of crazy, silly coaching decisions. You better get these guys ready to play. It's a home game. They have played well. They've played better at home in this tough stretch. This is what matters. They better take this back.
I'm going to round this one. I'm going to get to you, JJ, first, because Michael Wagner says, is JJ out on Fick? Where are we all on Fickell right now? Big picture.
I'm rapidly getting there, because there are certain things that stand out to me that are inexcusable for a coaching staff. The discipline and focus is one of them. There's some head scratching decisions, and the lack of consistency with effort on this team week to week is problematic. Like we cannot have a game. I realize it was a night game against Oregon, but you can't have a game where you hold them to 16 points and then you let a really mediocre, not even mediocre Nebraska offense drop 40 plus on you and look like you just can't, like they're unstoppable against you in every phase of the offensive game.
So I'm not, this may be an unpopular opinion today, but I'm not out on Fick at all at this point, just because the recruiting is there. Now, I want to be very clear. He does need to show it on the field, and next week is a big week. Next season is a big season for him. To me, it's like, it's way too early in a process. He has made changes. There's a lot of things that are happening at the same time. He has to make a new OC hire. That's a very important hire. If he misses on the next OC hire, if we play as poorly next year again and we're 5-6 wins, like, yeah, then I will be out on him, but I'm not there yet. He is really building a program. We've not had stacked recruiting classes like this in a while. That means something. This sport is the lifeblood of this sport is recruiting, and I feel like he does it very, very well. That cannot go unnoticed. I understand the on-the-field play has not been there, and I am absolutely going to be out on him if the on-the-field play does not get there. But I want to give him, I'm completely fine on it. Going to next season, you better make improvements. There has to be better. This OC hire, this is everything now. You missed on Longo. What happens now? So I'm okay on him now. I think that we just need to ride, keep the course and see how it goes.
Justin Urban says, "Fire and fix how you become Nebraska. Have some damn patience." And a bunch of people all over in the chat on this. Some people saying get rid of them.
I want to get rid of them. I said it has to improve. And what I will say is, and this is the point I wanted to make on the defense. I did look up the stats while we were talking here. We're 127th in the country in tackles for loss, and tied for 100th in sacks. That tells you of the lack of disruption. Listen, I know we're not that talented, but we're not that level of talentless. Like, I can understand 50 or 60. I can't understand 100. That's on the coaching staff. That's your scheme. Your scheme sucks. It's not disruptive.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't. That's terrible. Those are atrocious stats. I think on Fick, I'm not out on him. But the recruiting stuff, for how many years did we talk about Nebraska winning the offseason title? Like, every year was, Nebraska won the offseason recruiting title, and then the season would come and they couldn't coach them up. Like, recruiting's great, and Fickell has brought that, and we are recruiting we weren't getting some of these kids before, and that should not be on notice, as Rasheed said. And those players need some time. People get sick of that, but those players, these young players, need some time to build into the system. But we can't see performances going into year 3 or 4 like this. You can't go to Iowa and lose by 32. You can't lose to Nebraska like this. So I'm not out on Fick, but I'm not, like, it's hard to be optimistic after these last 3 or 4 weeks, right?
Totally. And I want to put up a comment here. Todd Romance says, Rajiv, look at next year's schedule. We could be 4 days of ceiling. The schedule is absolutely brutal. But the thing is, it's not, it is about how you play in some of these games. Like you just said, Ryan, like the way we played against Oregon and Penn State is certainly the way that I expect to be playing, competing with good teams. Penn State second half was pretty bad, but like, that's okay. When playing the Oregon, against Iowa and Nebraska, I will be out on him if we see that kind of performance, because that, like, the schedule is bad. Are we going to be a 10-win team next year? Hell no. But can we be a 6 or 7 or even an 8-win team if we play really well? And when we play those tough games that we have, are we competing? Do we look like we're actually making progress? That is a big deal.
Yeah.
I did find out turnovers, by the way. We're 98th in the country for that.
Yeah, you hate him. I get it. Like, I don't want to be late for that point the entire show. I'm not advocating for Tressel.
It's just such a massive part of why the defense is inconsistent, because it can't create these situations.
There's also not one guy that's going to get drafted. The draft is held tomorrow. Who in this defense?
I understand that, but like, listen, we're not talking about being like the worst year under Leonard was not even remotely in this stratosphere. Like, we had like 28 or 30 sacks.
The worst year under Leonard,
16
he had 3 NFL guys. The worst year under Leonard, he had 3 NFL guys. He had guys drafted every single year. Now, these are both issues. I think the point is we can agree the scheme hasn't been good enough and the talent's not good enough. These are both issues that need to get corrected. And where that exact equilibrium is, I mean, I think we keep arguing over it, but these are both issues. The talent's not good enough and the scheme hasn't been good enough. Like, these are both issues. Mitch James says, "Do we blitz it all today?" A little bit. We had some corner pressure, but not much. And Raiola got really, really comfortable. Like, the defense was the problem today. The offense played good enough, especially considering we had a comment in here. Someone said, "Shout out Nate Letton." The offense was okay today.
It was better than okay. The only couple of times that I had issues, Rajiv and I talked during the game, the 4th and 2 call. When you see them stacking to that side, you have to call timeout there.
So dumb.
Like, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're running into numbers. Like, that's not gonna go forward. And they blew up the play. I'm like, it was, they knew you were running the ball. You had no receivers out, and like, what are you doing?
And that might be where switching the OC was a problem, right? That might be harder to switch out of that with Nate.
I think that was a overthinking it, or just trying to be too simplistic and being like, we'll just run it down their throats.
I mean,
you didn't have numbers. You should have changed the play.
That's really the thing that upsets me the most about today, right? It's like, it's so maddening because the offense actually played okay.
Well, the passing game was like night and day.
If we make 2 easy makeable field goals, we're leading 16-14. It's like, and then like everything just changes. And of course, on that day, the defense doesn't look like they did at home in the last 2 night games. The special teams looks as bad as it's been all year long. Like, why does that have to happen? That is what's so upsetting to me. Complimentary football, it's about the whole team. It's like they focus on one thing for a week, and then that part does well, but they don't focus on the other ones. Again, Fickell, got to be better.
Are we beating Minnesota? And in the chat, let us know too.
I can't not pick a win because I still don't believe in what they're doing. It's a home game, to be frank. We have played better. Look at the Oregon and Penn State performances, not the results, but look at the performances. I think we have been playing better at home. We've had this little up and down situation for the last several weeks. This was our down game. Next week should be our up game. You're playing Minnesota. You're playing for a bowl. Our backs are completely up against the wall. So is Fickell's, for that matter. I think we get a win next week, regardless of what most people are probably going to disagree with me, and that's fine. I really do think we win.
So what I will say is I think it needs to be taken away that they lost to Penn State today, 26-25. And as much as we talk about a letdown from that game from Oregon, they're going to have a similar, that's an emotional drop off from a game like that. Now, I realize this is the game for us. It is a home game. And I think that this is a very gettable Minnesota team, but I wouldn't be shocked if they're not quite as up to snuff this next week after the drain, like the emotional drain from the last week.
Yeah, let's point out that's not going to exactly be a fiery home environment.
Yeah, no, it definitely is not. Which actually probably helps, right? Because if it was a fired up, really good crowd, everyone plays to a different level. Like, Wisconsin would probably be fired up, but so would Minnesota. It being kind of a ho-hum, kind of dead environment is probably like you have to create your own juice at that point.
I don't know if we beat them or not. Like, I could say whatever. It just, this team is so inconsistent. It's I don't know. Rajiv, it's to your point. I'm not gonna ever say Minnesota's gonna beat us, but what, I don't know. Like, it's so hard to bet on this team after what you saw today, after what you saw at Iowa. And yeah, their backs are going to be against the wall. They should have been against the wall today. You know what I mean? Like you should
You're
have
playing
felt
for
that.
bowl eligibility.
Yeah, you should have felt that urgency today. You should have felt it at Iowa. You are right, though. Some of our clunkers are on the road, getting them at home, coming back. I think we probably pull it out, but I don't know how anybody can say that confidently with this team and the level of consistency they've shown.
So from Michael here, Justin, if you make the wrong hire, then move on, yet you never want to say Fickell's fired. I literally said earlier, if this continues, you move on from him. The reality is you're not going to just fire the head coach. You're going to allow him to make some changes and try to fix his mistakes. If this was a complete abomination and we were just awful, then I would say fire him. The issue is that there are hints of it being really good and there are hints of it being bad. And some of that is the talent level that they have going on. Some of it is the lack of cohesion that we had in the staff. There are things he absolutely has to fix. If there's not progress next year, and I realize it's a tough schedule, I think there's a chance that the schedule isn't as tough as people think it's going to be. If he does not show progress, we have to be better, regardless of what everyone else does. Wisconsin has to prove that they're a better team next year. And I don't care you're breaking in a new coordinator. If we go 6-6 again next year, I'm going to want him gone. I'll say that right now, because you don't get to continue to perpetually show no progress, regardless of your changes. You're making changes so that you're better the next year, not so that you're, kind of getting yourself a get out of jail free card to go forward. You've got to be better. And 6-6 is not acceptable here, especially with the recruiting classes you're bringing in.
Yeah, I think to me next year, it's almost to Reggie's point. I think you're probably going to go 7-5 next year. If you can be better and go 7-5. I just want to see better. That's what I wanted to see this year.
I think you're going to be better than 7-5 if you have an identity on offense and the defense actually can do anything in terms of disruption. You should be better.
The schedule is absolutely horrendous. It's really, really bad. It's going to be very, very difficult to win 7 games.
I just don't think it is. I know people worry about Michigan.
You don't think Michigan's coming back next year?
I don't. I really don't think they're going to be substantially better. I think they're going to be roughly what they are because they're going to lose a ton of talent on defense.
They're a quarterback.
They are not a quarterback away. They are way further than a quarterback.
From being better than us? Yeah, they are.
From being better than us? Yeah, but they're also losing half their defense.
But we have to go there. We have to go to Alabama. We have to go to Oregon. We still have to play Iowa. Washington's not a terrible team-ish. I mean, they're not good this year. But
those are real teams. Or do we have just Washington? I thought we had Ohio State.
I think we have Oregon, Bama, and Ohio State next year.
Yes. Yes.
Bama and Oregon are on the road. Washington's on the road. Michigan's on the road. Still got Iowa. That's a really hard schedule. That's a really, really hard schedule. Our Big Ten.
We play Alabama. Our Big Ten road opponents are Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, and Oregon. Our home opponents are Illinois, Iowa, Maryland, Ohio State, and Washington. That's a very tough schedule.
Yeah, it is.
I just want to say this. I think you could go 7-5 next year, but if you look better and you show progress, you can't look like this again, though. You can't be 6-6, but get blown out by Iowa and get blown out by Nebraska.
Can I give a big FU to the Big Ten office, by the way, for this schedule?
Yeah, it gets easier, though, in 26.
26 is a nice schedule.
Well, thanks. I'm glad we can get abused for 5 straight years, and then you
finally look at Fickell still here. The 2025 recruiting class is going to be humming, boys. Let's go.
NFP says no starting quarterback injury, hopefully. I will also say this. I don't think we can complain about schedules too much if you're an Indiana fan, a Michigan State fan, a fan that's been living in the Big Ten East. They don't want to hear that.
Nah, it's
but we've had it crossovers half the time. I get it. They have a couple tough games. Ryan, you and I have discussed this. I've looked into this. We don't play that many of those teams from the East, Wisconsin, much less than what those teams do. We were almost on par with them.
But no, the bad teams played all 3 of them every year, though. The good teams.
I know, but we would normally play 2 of the good ones. And it was normally prior to this, it was balanced, or what do you call it?
Just look at last year, though.
Scheduling was set up based off of your quality.
I'm just saying, I'm not here to complain about the schedule. We just got to be better, and that's the ultimate.
Yeah, agreed.
last thoughts, guys. I know we're already at 40 minutes, and there's a ton of comments we need to get into. We're obviously going to keep talking about this on all of our content over the next week, going into other things. I will point out volleyball tonight, Wisconsin, Nebraska, big volleyball game, and basketball tomorrow playing Pittsburgh. Great guard, Justin. Yeah, it's got to bring a smile to your face. Let's get that smile. Let's see those pearlies. Guys, final thoughts.
I will say for my final thought, if we lose to Minnesota, it's going to be the worst record this team has had in 24 years. That, I mean, when Luke Fickell got hired, and we were on this show talking about it, having a team looking ahead a couple of years and seeing a team that has had its worst record in 25 years is not something we saw.
What are your thoughts?
And that to me is just so, I mean, I cannot overstate how important this Minnesota game is, because 5-7 is completely unacceptable. The number of times it's happened since I've been a Badger fan is literally once. That's horrible. It cannot happen. We've got to do better. 25 years. And last year, when we lost to Indiana Northwestern, I actually titled the Bucky Report episode, Worst Loss in 25 Years. I feel like I'm saying it a lot. This is something you got to turn a corner. You got to find a way to get this team ready to play. You got to find a way to win.
What are your thoughts on if they get a bowl offer at 5-7?
Take it.
You take it?
Take it because of the practices, but I'm still going to be pissed about it.
But you get the practices, so you got to take it.
Yeah, because of the
practices.
See, I'm such an accountability, like with the way that plays out to me. I'm almost like, you guys don't deserve this. Like, if I was a coach, I'd be like, why am I sending you to this? Like, you guys had your opportunity to earn this. You didn't do it. But I get it. If they're going to take it, like, listen, I'm not stupid. There's money associated with it. They're going to take it. But it's frustrating to me to see them be like, we deserve this.
Well, let's just beat Minnesota and not be there. But, like, you have to take it, because otherwise you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. To just say we're not going to take 2 weeks of practices with the amount of young talent on this roster.
You're not wrong.
It would just be – that would be gross coaching malfeasance.
It would be.
So they'll take it, but no one's going to feel good. The other part of your answer, though, you're nail on. No one's going to feel good about it. If you get in on a technicality at 5-7 after losing to Nebraska and Minnesota to end your season, two rivalry games, all three trophy
Minnesota
games,
celebration stuff. Yeah,
no one's going to feel good about it, nor should they. But you still need those practices. My last thought is this: I have a buddy who's a Jets fan. He's a Jets, Knicks, Mets fan because I'm in Connecticut, and he always used to tell me how jealous he was that I was a Badger fan, because every year Badger basketball and football, for the majority of my friendship with them, has been good. We've been friends over a decade. Every year he said, they're like a metronome. They're never bad. And I don't have any team like that. And it feels like we're on the precipice of maybe losing that with football. Mm-hmm. And that sucks, because no program's immune from all of us, all of our teams. No program is immune from dropping into the depth of the abyss. You got to be super careful to not make stupid knee-jerk reactions, but also make decisive, really decisive action if you need to. This is a really critical time for this program. Coming into this offseason, for Fickell, for McIntosh, the entire program. I don't think that's overstating it, because once you fall into that abyss, it's sometimes very, very hard to climb back out.
Totally agree. A high floor is the one thing I've always loved. I always take a high floor, lower ceiling over a low floor, high ceiling. I always want high floor. It's so nice to have a team that can compete every year. We wanted to beat the bad teams, compete with the good teams. We didn't do that this year. We failed that. So that's a failure, in my opinion, this season. So we got to go out again next year. It's got to be better. If we're not going to have that, we're going to need to make a coaching change.
All right, guys. On Wisconsin, as always, remember, volleyball tonight, basketball tomorrow. For all the Packers fans watching this, Niners-Packers tomorrow. Obviously, I'm invested in that as well. So at least there's other sports coming up.
Hey, maybe you can sit next to Brock Purdy and watch it.
The funniest thing is, like, Purdy's out, which is not funny. Bosa's out as well. But one of the 49ers content creators, like, start Tanner Mordecai. And I'm like, can I just get away from these Badger quarterbacks, please?
No kidding. No kidding. I don't blame you there.
Stop, please. So
knowing my luck, I would get punished for Mordecai would go out there and play well, and I would lose. And it'd be like, no matter what I do, like, I just can't have things go well.
Dom echoes what I think a lot of people are going to say on this channel. Go Pack, Niners suck. Dom, love you, brother. Thank you for everybody tuning in. On Wisconsin, have a great weekend, and go volleyball, go basketball.
Yeah.
We'll talk later.